Welcome to the Warrant and Finance Committee meeting for April 19th. It's 6:03. The first thing I want to do is apologize to everybody. I didn't remember the agenda until I was on my way up here, so it's a good thing that we're just voting on the warrant articles tonight, so there shouldn't be a lot for us to remember. Yeah, and first thing we'll do is salute the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, there.
There's John.
Jen printed us out, new warrant. There was, some numbers changes, and something was left off, and, everything's all good now, so.
Till tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, like they say, once we vote on them, they're kind of sad.
Dennis?
Yes.
Did you give you any extra copies?
I've got an older copy. It's the same wording.
I've got an older one.
There's one here. I think I got one. I got two.
Boy, I tell you.
Joe, you need a warrant?
I got one here you can have, Joe, if you want it.
All right. Please give it now.
The numbers are gonna be a little bit off, but, the numbers for the warrant articles aren't changing. So, let's see.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Yes, sir.
We want to designate our alternate as a voting member tonight.
You're 100% right. Thank you, John. Tucker, you're a voting member tonight.
Thank you.
We gotta move down to, where are we starting? It's all right, I was thinking about the, school articles, and I guess that isn't just part of this warrant. So I guess, the first thing that, is Article 10. To see if the town will vote to adopt the following changes to the town of Acton zoning ordinances related to construction of storage buildings. The rationale for this is that we don't really have much in our ordinance right now regulating these. And if you look on the second page, that is what we are adding. Yeah.
What do you want, page 3?
Yes, page 3. The fall, yeah, I'm sorry, Virginia.
Okay.
We're adding that terminology in there so that, we'll have some regulation on these. Any questions on that?
Mr. Chairman, you're a member of the planning board, so the planning board in favor of these?
Yes, we did these articles, we did them, over a year ago. But then with the COVID and stuff, we had to start over, and, with a new planning board. And, yes, it was full, they wanted to put these forward, yes.
Then I will make a motion that our recommendation is to adopt the article as presented.
Is there a second?
You said Article 10?
Article
Right.
10, yeah.
Page 2.
That's on the stores building.
Okay, I'm getting screwed up here. It's over here on this, the other page, it says Article 3 here.
Right.
And on this side, it says Article 10. Okay. Okay. I'm with you.
So we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? I gotta remember to, record these tonight. Hopefully I won't forget.
Film.
Yeah,
What was, the vote was
6-0.
unanimous? 6-0.
yeah.
Okay.
Article 11, to see if the town will adopt the following changes to the Acton zoning ordinance related to structures over water. This came from, we do have a dock ordinance, and we took away the temporary docks out of the ordinance, and just, so we just have permanent docks. The portable docks are the ones that aren't attached to land. The permanent docks are attached to land. And the reason is, anybody that's been around the lakes knows there's a lot of docks to get put out on the water and taken back out, and it's really unenforceable by the code enforcement. I mean, you never could keep track of all these docks, and so we did away with the temporary docks and just permanent docks. And again, the planning board was unanimous on moving that forward.
And I will make a motion that we recommend that the town meeting adopt Article 11 as presented.
Do I have a second?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Virginia.
So, I'm not that familiar with the water area.
Yeah.
So does that mean nobody can have a temporary dock?
No, you can have them, you just don't need a permit.
Okay. Good. Great.
Go ahead. Yeah, because it's just, it's too much. Anyway, any other questions? All in favor? 6-0. Boy, I tell you, it was non-mask, don't forget your glasses. If you will have patience with me tonight. Article 13? 12. See, I lost my page here. Oh yeah, here we are. To see if the town will vote to adopt the following amendments to the Town of Acton zone ordinance related to timber harvesting. A couple of years ago, the state said that we needed to get out of the timber harvesting business. And they wanted us to take any wording in our ordinance that had to do with timber harvesting out of our ordinance. And we thought we had done good, but they found another place that was there. So once again, that's the only difference is deleting that, as you see on page 6, is deleting that section that's highlighted with a line through it. And the 3.2 timber harvesting, those are the only two things we had left that they found, so I think this might be our third year trying to get rid of everything in there. It's really more of a housekeeping thing, you know, going along with what the state wants us to do. Any questions on that? I guess we ought to have a motion for it anyway.
We'll make a motion then that we recommend to the town meeting adoption of Article 12 as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
6-0. This one is a little more contentious. Article 13, to see if the town will vote to adopt the following amendments to the Town of Acton zoning ordinance related to short-term rentals. As of now, the town has nothing in their zoning ordinance to do with these short-term rentals. There are some towns that do have this, and some are still working on it. I don't think it's really gone rampant around the state. It's Cape Elizabeth and maybe Old Orchard, places like that. The fire chief wanted us to do something. This was a 4-to-1 vote on the planning board. I was the one that voted against it. Again, we started working on this 2 years ago. When we had a public hearing a year ago, we drew quite a crowd over this, and there was quite a bit of conversation against this ordinance. The planning board thought that having this effective January of 2022, they would give people a chance to bring their houses or camps up to code. And the idea is you'd have to come in and get a permit. And as you look through here, you can see certain standards that will have to be met in order for you to rent out your property. My argument against this was, and I'm not, I know there's all kinds of circumstances, but there are, especially the elderly in town, that will rent out their place for a couple of weeks or 3 weeks and get enough money to pay the taxes. Because as we all know, the assessment all around the lake is, well, going out of sight, for that matter. It's worse than it ever was. And that was my reason for voting no, and I think this honestly needs a lot more work. I think before you put something like this forward, and I'm just talking my experience on the planning board, I think we should have had some realtors come in. I mean, we don't know if we have 50 people that rent places in this town, or if we have 500. You know what I mean? Another argument that I had with the, not argument, but with the planning board was the fact that my experience with people on the lakes has been that the neighbors monitor the neighbors, and if there's a place that gets crazy for some reason, you know, the neighbors would tell the owner, geez, these people are out of control, and we don't want you to, we really wish you wouldn't rent to them again. And my experience has been the people on the lakes work very well together. And I just don't think this is ready. I don't think we're there, myself personally.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'd like to make a few comments on this article here. I did a little research on this, and I could not find a town that has passed this, and they are all coastal, Cape Elizabeth, all along the coast, that has this kind of restrictions in short-term rentals. And the reason being is that they have a rental ordinance already, so they don't have to have all these restrictions that are in here. And short-term rental came by because of a shortage of inventory of rental buildings. People like had a 3-family over on the beach in Agunquit found out that they could rent their second and third floor by the week for a lot more money they could get from an annual renting. And there's an article in Biz Magazine of a place over on Munjoy Hill where they took 2 comparable in bedrooms apartments, and one guy only rented his thing out on Airbnb for 58% of the occupancy that he could get, and he made $20,000 more than a regular guy renting his place for yearly rentals. This here, and if you watch the planning board meetings, they might as well said a shoreland zoning ordinance for shoreland zoning rentals, because the safety factors in here, they're not concerned with the other people that rent the 52 weeks of the year. They're concerned with this for the people that rent only in the summer, the 8 weeks for the summer. That's what this ordinance is.
Right, Arnie, it's not townwide.
The expense, yeah, and the expense is exorbitant. I mean, it says in this article, you have to hardwire fire alarms. That means you gotta get an electrician to come in and snake the wires through the wall to put in hard wire. And then you have to have an egress window, a window that somebody can climb out. Well, if you have to change that window and open it up bigger, you gotta take out the jack stud, maybe the king stud, you gotta replace the header. That's a very expensive, thing to do for renting you're gonna get for 8 weeks. And as far as the safety thing, and I mentioned this the other night, and they should make sure that everybody has a certification of swimming, because it's more people die drowning than they do in fire. But this thing here has got it's open ending on the fees. You gotta have an annual permit fee, an annual inspection, and there's no figure on that. What's it gonna be? $100, $1,000? How can you vote on recommending something when you don't even know what the fees are gonna be? And the other fee is you have to pay an application fee. I mean, it's just like one costly thing after the other, and I agree. It's needs a lot of work, this thing. I don't know if you can pass rental laws for one person on this side of town, and those laws are not gonna pertain to somebody else on the other side of town. I just don't know, so.
At the public hearing the other night, there was talk about that too, Arnie, you know what I mean? To change, some people would say, and I don't know if it's true, that this would be considered spot zoning even. Tom?
Well, there's an additional issue, a couple of additional issues that I would present. I agree with what Arnie's saying. I'm also going to say that you can sell a house with these conditions existing in it. That's a legal sale for somebody else to then occupy. Can't rent it. I mean, these conditions apply, or these requirements apply to new construction, but they cannot be applied retroactively. What exists now. My suggestion would be if you have new rentals, then maybe you should be looking at it. But you would not apply retroactively to existing structures for a sale of a property. You wouldn't require somebody, if they're going to sell a property, to go in and put an egress window in an existing house in order to sell it legally. Or you wouldn't require them to go in and put in fire extinguishers or anything else retroactively. So, and there's an additional technical issue with this, and the technical issue is this, that presumably this goes into effect on January 1st of 2021, which I think is 6 months past, or getting close to 6 months past, so,
Right, they're gonna have the effective date, I think, in there, Tom.
well,
was
it
22.
says effective is 1/1/2021, so, my inclination is that this needs additional work too, and it needs to be thought through a little bit more clearly. And if we're going to implement something like this, it's fine, but you should be implementing it over a period of time. You don't just drop the bomb in 1 year.
Well, Mr. Chairman?
The planning board, Tom, where'd you see the effective date, Tom?
Right down here in the last line on page 8, just above Board of Selectmen recommendation.
Because the planning
It says on
board,
or after, I'm sorry, it says on or after January 1, but,
yeah, no, the planning board did vote to change that to 22.
well, then, you know,
This is a selectmen's
what we're
warrant.
voting on.
No, you're right,
Okay, so, Mike,
you're right.
excuse me, but, okay, so I'm going to vote to, I'm going to make a recommendation that we vote no on this.
Seconded it.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
do you know if the planning board has had a legal look at this, whether it's a legal document? Can you?
The planning board passed the document on to the Board of Selectmen.
I was just wondering whether it is legal to put restrictions on one part of town and not the other town.
I don't know, we didn't really get into that, Arnie, too much.
Okay.
I do know that there was a lady at the public hearing that wanted to know what the fees were gonna be, and I explained to her that, that's a selectman's decision, what fees would be.
I know.
So anyway, any more on this? Virginia?
Can we ask Kim what the Board of Selectmen, when they got it, or what they're doing with it?
I haven't even gotten it yet.
All right.
Oh, so it's
Tomorrow, I'm sure I'll get it.
Sure.
I had it, but I wasn't here.
it's very new, okay.
So, but as a few of you said, this seems a little rushed if we don't even have fees in place. Or it's only for one side, but not everybody else.
Right.
Personally, I think it needs a lot more work before it gets sent out for a vote. I have no idea what we do with fees or anything like that, we have to talk about it.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to rephrase my motion and make the recommendation that the town meeting table this article for further consideration, as opposed to withdraw my motion, reject it, and say table it. We want to
Table it.
table it.
We should have the town meeting table it.
Until it's reconsidered, the table the article.
Are we gonna confuse people, Tom?
I don't think so. I think everybody knows what table means.
I agree.
You did not vote in the affirmative on it.
Yeah.
Or the negative.
Right.
Does it not seem that there could be a huge legal question as to whether you can set certain rules for short-term people and people that are over whatever is no longer short to medium to long-term rentals? I mean, that looks pretty deep to me.
Yeah.
Legal.
Well, like I said, most towns have gone the opposite way. They've had rental ordinances, and now they just added short-term to it. Because if you look at Cape Elizabeth and Portland and all them, they had rental controls and they just added short-term. And all it says is that a lot of the towns give you 14 days that you can rent it. For other ones, there's more. Other ones only say 30 days, they don't say 60 days for short-term rental. So, I mean, it's really new, and it's never been done that I could find that it's been done this way. You regulate the short-term rentals, and then you're gonna regulate the other houses, the people that rent year-round.
It almost seems to me like there should, if there's going to be a short-term rental clause, it should have a minimum too. You don't want a changeover every weekend of people, their trash, it just,
That's what they generally do, I mean, it's like, the real estate company, every week, the cleaning crews go in on Saturday morning, everybody's out there, they take the trash to clean. Tom, what's his name?
Elias Thomas.
Elias Thomas.
Yeah.
You know, that's how they do it, they rent them all that week.
Well, I can see how the rental people would like to do it, that way. They benefit financially, but I'm just thinking
A
of,
lot of people can't afford to do one a week, true, at most.
And again, like I said earlier, I think
Just
we
an
need to
observation.
meet with some realtors and, get some input. And so you wanna withdraw your second, Tucker? Tom won't change his
I
motion.
modified the motion, so, to table as opposed to dispense with it. What that does is it says, take it back and reconsider it before you.
Okay, then no, I'll stick with it.
Okay. All in favor?
Was that 6-0?
6-0 to table. And again, I probably wrote it on the dime. I did, it was on the wrong dime. But anyway, we'll go on to 14. To see if the town will authorize the Board of Selectmen to appropriate and expend monies from their undesignated fund balance for the purchase of equipment or to use as they deem advisable to meet unanticipated expenses and emergencies that occur during the fiscal year 2021-22. Expenditures of excess of $500 shall require advice and recommendation of the Warrant and Finance Committee. Expenditure of $15,000 maximum. This is just written, it's just like it was last year.
Yeah.
Tom?
I'm going to make the same recommendation that I made last year, that the article be amended to remove recommendation and insert approval and adopt the article as recommended. Recommendation doesn't say anything.
You want approval?
Well,
I have a question
go
on
ahead,
that.
Virginia.
I thought that Warrant and Finance was, if the warrant we have on it is that we give recommendations to the town meeting, the Board of Selectmen. Our approval isn't necessarily required.
Mr. Chairman?
Now, let me, originally the article was revised.
Right.
Originally, the article as presented to the town meeting when it first came into place was, it required the approval. About 4 or 5 years ago, the selectmen changed it to insert the term recommend. Now that term is unclear. What does recommendation mean? Does a recommendation require that Warrant and Finance recommend that expenditure? Or does it just mean you have a recommendation? The selectmen have altered the way they use that term to decide it just means the Warrant and Finance gives a recommendation as opposed to approval. This is a reasonably new article in the history of the town meeting. It's between 5 and 10 years old. It never existed before that.
Right.
When I was
Just to
chairman of the board, it was turned, the town meeting turned it down.
clarify, I'm looking at the Warrant and Finance Committee ordinance, and we see in 1C, it says, we see both words, it says, after due consideration and study of a proposed warrant article, the committee, being Warrant and Finance, shall make a recommendation as to whether the proposed warrant article should be approved based on the committee's consideration of both the general advisability of the proposed warrant article and its financial impact. So here we have both words, so I guess either one would go.
If we, as a Warrant and Finance Committee, disapproved of some proposed expenditure, the selectmen can always go back to the town meeting and say, we want to do this.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
And then we would be in the position of making a recommendation in that case. And the town meeting could do what it decided to do. But in this case, this isn't going to the town meeting for its approval of expenditure of municipal funds.
I think, Tom, and I don't know this, I think when they changed the wording in that was when they redid the Warrant and Finance Committee ordinance. They put very clear in there that, you and I know how it used to be, and they made it very clear that all we can do is make a recommendation in the ordinance, and that was really something that was pushed pretty hard when they changed the Warrant and Finance Committee ordinance.
Well, I have a problem with it, and I think from the point of view of the selectmen, that they would want to have a recommendation, favorable recommendation from Warrant and Finance, but that's up to them.
Right.
They do their own thing, but then they accept responsibility for it too.
Right.
You know, this ordinance goes on in another section to say the committee shall provide its recommendation to the selectmen regarding the proposed actions in accordance with any previously enacted warrant article, which is also written to require the recommendation of Warrant and Finance Committee. So, and this is the ordinance that became effective April 5, 2011. So,
Like I said, between 5 and 10 years.
You had something you want to say, Arnie?
No.
Is there a second on that motion?
what exactly is the motion again, please?
We'll change the wording.
The motion was to amend the article to remove recommendation and insert approval, and then adopt the article as amended.
But didn't you make this last year and they just ignored it anyway?
Yes, they had that up.
I know. I mean, no.
Oh, I made the motion, and, I don't remember how the vote went.
Yeah.
I don't either.
I don't think
I
it's
know
worth
it used
spending
to
any
be-
more time on. You know, the ordinance says what it says, so splitting hairs over whether we wanted to say recommendation or approval or whatever, I don't know that's within our power.
So Tom's motion fails. Is there a new motion?
I'll move that we accept it as written.
I second it.
All those in favor? Opposed?
5-1.
Yeah. Now I'm on the right article. I'm writing numbers on the right article.
15, Dennis.
I got everything in the right place here, so everything isn't all foggy here for the second. Article 15, to see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to dispose of surplus town equipment with the exception of road equipment having a value of less than or equal to $500 on such terms and conditions as they deem advisable, and to execute any necessary documents to accomplish said purpose. All equipment having a value of more than $500 shall be put out to public bid. Funds received from such sales shall be placed in a capital reserve account for the associated department. What's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion.
Tom.
I will make a motion that we recommend the deletion of reference to a capital reserve account and put the money back where it should go in the undesignated fund. That's it. And part of the reason for that is some of these funds are being sold equipment where there is no associated department. But that's neither here nor there either. But it belongs in the undesignated fund balance. It's receipt of the town in the sale of property.
Is there a second?
I mean, I'll second that, but I'd like to discuss, does it make a difference? Are they gonna change this warrant if we change this verbiage?
No.
The town meeting can change the warrant. The town meeting would change by adopting the recommendation of the Warrant and Finance Committee if that becomes the recommendation. Okay? So, the recommendation is made to the floor of the town meeting, and then the town meeting says, we adopt either the article as presented or as amended, as recommended by the Warrant and Finance Committee. It's not up to the selectmen.
Will that say this on the warrant, so when the people get this, they're gonna see that?
Yes.
You'll see our recommendation.
The recommendation is to delete the reference to capital reserve account and and restore the money to the undesignated fund.
Well, really what you're doing, Tom, is you're deleting the capital reserve account.
Right.
For the associated department.
Right.
That whole,
And there are a couple reasons for that. And I think I've hit on the primary one, but the other problem here is we keep sticking money in capital reserve accounts. This money gets stuck in there for some designated purpose in the future. And meanwhile, people are paying taxes to pay are being taxed for current expenses. The undesignated fund balance is intended to do that.
Have we been putting it back in capital reserves for,
We don't know what that capital
Historically,
reserve account is.
we don't?
That's another story. There's a lot of history behind that too. In other words, that's my recommendation anyway.
I just want to touch on this capital reserve account. As most of you know, the selectmen have started a capital improvement committee. And I would assume, what they're gonna come back with is what, they see as the capital improvements we need. And until we have that information, there really isn't much sense to me putting any money in any capital reserve account. Until they come back with what, they think is what's the best interest of the town. You agree with that, Kim?
Would that be under the carry reward funds? Is that a carry forward reward?
Yes, it would be.
Well, there is no, it's called a capital improvement fund, not capital.
Excuse me, no, wait a minute, back up a little bit. It would not be a carried fund. It's undesignated funds that can be used to offset taxes.
No, I'm talking about the one that's written in here. It says placed in a capital reserve account, and there's I guess, general ledger 10 number, capital improvement fund, and it's got $33,000 in it.
And I don't want to pick on, the fire department, but the fire department has a capital reserve account. And I know the selectmen have a capital reserve account. The schools has capital reserve accounts. I think the only ones that really don't is, roads.
These capital reserve accounts tie up a lot of cash. And if we're not using that cash, what we're doing is we're taxing people this year for something that might not get spent for 5 years. And that person may be moved out of town, may have died, whatever. Why should somebody who's living in town now pay taxes to go into some account that may not get spent for 5 or 10 years? It's like creating a reserve account for a fire truck, okay? I live in town. This year, I'm gonna pay into a capital reserve account for a fire truck that the town might not buy for 10 years. I may be dead, probably will be, or I might have moved out of town. Why should I be paying taxes for something that I'm not gonna see a use for 10 years? It's not ethical.
I don't disagree with Tom, but this says funds received from such sales shall be placed in a capital reserve account for the associated department. That says to me, potentially, you need to open up a capital reserve account for every department in the town.
And then you need to ask yourself further what
Yeah.
kind of capital reserve account you have, whether you're gonna have a statutory one, which gets into a whole nother ball of issue. Why set money aside for people who are not gonna realize the benefit of that money now?
So basically, if I understand you right, Tom, if the townspeople decide that they want something, or some department, you bring it forward to the town meeting, and then let the town meeting decide if they want to spend that money or not.
Right.
And borrow the money, or however they want to do it.
Right.
And that way there, you're not being taxed on money that, who knows what we're gonna do with it, that we don't even know yet.
Right.
That's what it amounts to, is what you're saying.
It belongs in the undesignated fund balance to offset taxes.
So, there's something, you seconded that, didn't you, Arnie?
Yeah.
Any more discussion on that? All in favor of Tom's motion? Four yes, are the other two nays? Okey-dokey, to see if the town will authorize the Board of Selectmen to sell any tax-acquired property and issue a quitclaim deed for the same, and to put funds received for sales in the municipal undesignated fund. Sale to be sealed bids or public auction if to other than the owner of record at the time of foreclosure, and no selectman during the term of his or her office may acquire from the town any interest or real estate acquired by the town on account of non-payment of taxes unless the owner of record at the time of foreclosure was the selectman or the son, daughter, spouse, or parent of the selectman. Except that municipal officers shall use the special sale process required by 36 MRS 943-C for qualifying homestead property if they choose to sell it to any other than the former owner. Can I have a motion on that, please?
Make a motion to approve the written.
Is there a second?
Second.
And what this is doing right here is exactly what Tom was just talking about. Any revenues that you get from sale of tax-acquired property, and the one obviously before was, town-owned property, really. It's all property, I guess. But this here, this one here is, that's what they're doing with the money, is they're putting in the undesignated fund balance.
Right.
So they're doing really two different things with the two articles.
Right.
For the money. Any discussion on that one? Seeing none, all in favor? 6-0. Article 17, to see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen upon request of the treasurer to allow the treasurer to waive foreclosure of tax lien on a specified property for a specified year with reference to the tax lien certificate recorded as the York County Registry of Deeds in circumstances where the Board of Selectmen determined that foreclosure may encumber the town. Can I have a motion, please?
I will make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we amend this article to require a publication of the list of properties for which foreclosure has been suspended, and adopt the article with that condition.
Is it not already available?
No.
No?
No, it is not.
I thought that was already a
I
requirement.
asked for
you
that
publish.
last year, and we were pretty much told, no, that's not gonna happen. Okay, again, this is the public's business, and no matter whether foreclosure is going to encumber the town or failure to foreclose is also going to encumber the town. Okay? Because you're not collecting the taxes or you're not getting the amount of money, okay? It puts a burden on the individual citizens of the town. So all I'm suggesting here is that information be made public. I don't have a problem with the decision to do that. In lots of cases, it's a wise thing to do. But it is public business, and it should be, and the public should know about it.
Is there a second?
I'll second it. I still don't know whether
You say you're gonna second it, Arnie?
yeah, I'll second it. I don't know whether, I don't really know how I feel about the article, that's all. I don't know. I don't know that much about what this,
Well, Arnie, may I, Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
Okay. What happens sometimes, Arnie, is that if we foreclose on a property, then we are responsible, the town, for caring for the people who have to abandon that property.
We don't care for the people, do we?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. That goes way back to the history of poorhouses or town farms. We used to take these people, when we repossessed, and send them to the town farm, okay? We don't have a town farm anymore. But we are responsible, and we have to provide care for a certain period of time. Normally what happens is, in a town like Acton, they send them to Sanford in a motel, and they have to stay there long enough for Sanford to pick up the
Okay.
That's the history, okay?
Okay.
Well, that's the background anyway.
And that's how it is today.
Right.
If the selectmen had this worded this way back 40 years ago, we wouldn't own that contaminated property that the tannery left for us that we took for back taxes. And all it is 20 acres, or whatever size of polluted ground. And the town foreclosed on that, took ownership of it, and someday it is gonna be a huge expense for us.
Yeah.
That,
That's another example where
Yeah.
it's not smart to foreclose if you can.
Maybe I'm missing something, but don't we have to publish and notify the public when we're foreclosing on property now?
Yes.
So why did, seems like an extra level. Why is it, what we have now, the process, why is that so inadequate as to require another level put into this article?
It's not another level, it's a different option. It provides the town with a different option. And the only thing I'm suggesting that's different here is that there's no procedure set up for the selectmen to do this. And all I'm saying is it's a public business and it should be published in the town report, that the selectmen have made that decision. I don't have a problem with giving them the power, but I think it should be public business. It is public business. I think it should be known.
Kim, when you're foreclosing on your property, which we have a few now that you're working on, yeah, I know normally you guys don't give the names and where it is and all that stuff, but, I think it's more of a respect thing than,
Well, right, it's not to hide anything, I mean, wonder if we could put it in the book, I mean, you don't need to know people's names,
You just said the lot number.
Lot number that foreclosed on, maybe something like that, but.
That would be fine with me. It's just, you know,
Right, having it recorded somewhere.
yep.
Has to be recorded.
it's public, it's public business.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah, it's a shame that, you know, people getting things in certain circumstances and they can't pay their bills, but they shouldn't be stigmatized, and it is now. People, we need better people. People should not look down on people that have to have their houses foreclosed on. When I first got in politics many years ago, 50 years ago, at the town meeting, they told you the people's name. The guy fell off the ladder and broke his leg, and we had to pay, we paid him 8 weeks, we gave him this much for everything, and everything was fine. And then, it all, oh, he got welfare. Oh, he's a bad person. And now you can't produce anybody's name because people look down on, they needed help.
Well, some people do, Arnie.
Well, I know, but it's sad that it's come to that. And it's sad it's come to that.
I'll bring it up on Wednesday night, just put that up.
So what are we doing on this article?
Whatever the committee wants to do. Call for a vote.
What was the motion?
What was the motion again?
I seconded it. Yeah, we're gonna change it to, put the lot maybe in the,
We should identify, there should be a list in the town report.
Yeah, what's the word? There's a lot number and another identifier on
Map and
on our
lot,
tax bills.
map and lot.
Map and lot.
yeah.
Instead, no names, just,
And that way, somebody, if they really wanted to find out, they could put the effort forward to look.
Yeah.
And that would be enough public record, I guess.
Maybe I'll make that a little bit more specific,
I wish you would.
we will amend this article to add the following clause. A list of people whose foreclosure has who's,
how about this, Tom? The list will include the identification by map and lot number of the foreclosed property, and it will appear in the town annual report.
town annual report, right. A list of properties eligible for but not foreclosed, identified by map and lot.
You wanna know where?
No, not,
No, I want to know when that decision has been made.
Okay.
Okay?
a list of foreclosures identified, shall be identified in the town
A
report.
list of
By map and lot
foreclosures.
number.
A list of foreclosures that have been postponed, shall we put it that way, by an act of the selectmen, shall be
You're pushing
identified
me
in
here,
the
Tom.
annual report by map and lot.
You know how good my shorthand is?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
Probably not much better than mine. Can't read.
didn't we say a thing that the guy that made the motion had to write it out?
Ah, that's nice. Anyway,
Not that I have a problem with Tom, I just have a problem
I
with
wrote it out, you wouldn't be able to read it anyway, because I couldn't.
your interpretation of what he said.
the amendment is a list of foreclosures shall be identified by map and lot in the town report.
A list of unforeclosed
Unforeclosed.
properties eligible for foreclosure.
Pending foreclosure.
Yeah, pending foreclosure, that's better.
List of pending foreclosure.
Yeah,
You don't need the word list. Pending foreclosures will be identified by map and lot number. The
Good
annual
wording.
town report.
she's got it. Maybe you should write all
Thank you, Virginia.
Good work.
Yes.
All in favor? Opposed? 5-0.
5-1. Got many of them?
5-1, I'm sorry, David, I didn't mean to give you 0. You are 1, I didn't mean any disrespect there. Article 18, to see if the town will vote to have real estate and personal property taxes first payment come due on October 15th, 2021, and the second payment on April 15th, 2022. Interest to be charged at 6% on all taxes paid after October 15th, 2021, and April 15th, 2022. The interest on abated taxes to be paid by the town at 4% pursuant to 36 MRSA 506-A, and to authorize the tax collector to accept prepayment of taxes before the tax commitment with no interest.
I'll make a motion that we recommend the article as presented.
We have a second.
Second.
Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? This one is 6-0. Article 19, to see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to make application for and execute any documents related to any grant or donation, to accept any such grants or donation, or any fees, and appropriate such funds to the designated use, as long as they do not require matching funds or encumber the town in any way. The treasurer shall be notified of any grant applications and a copy shall be kept on file with the treasurer's office. What's your pleasure?
Recommend adoption of the article as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? 6-0. When I say seeing none, if somebody really has something they want to say, make sure you let me know in case I miss you. Article 20, to see if the town will vote to accept revenues received from MEMA and FEMA claims during the upcoming fiscal year into the Emergency Disaster Reserve Fund. Said funds are to be appropriated at the discretion of the Board of Selectmen to restore budgets of the various departments for expenses incurred during the declared event. The appropriation shall not exceed the expenditures incurred during the declared event.
Recommend adoption of the article as presented.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? 6-0. Article 21, to see if the town will vote to carry forward the following fund balances.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Waive the reading.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Figured you would.
I think probably everybody else does those. I have to listen to these. They started doing a lot of these about 10 years ago, carrying over these funds in these different departments. What's your
All right,
pleasure?
I will make a motion. I'm going to make a motion and I'll explain why. My recommendation is to not adopt this article. And the reason is because the capital, the accounts are not identified by number. And there's a history here. It goes back a couple years ago. I went back through 7 years of warrants. And it pulled all these accounts out that were being carried, and year to year they were changing the names. And one year they'd be this, next year they'd be something else, the next year they'd be something other. There was no way to keep track of these funds. And that's the origin of the discussion of including the account numbers with the article, or with the funds, all right? So that's my recommendation right now. If we have account numbers on that, then I'd reconsider, okay? But right now, my motion is no.
Well, can we make a recommendation that they put the account numbers down?
This is the warrant we've been dealt.
I know, but you said we could make a recommendation on one of these other ones. Can't we?
I mean, we could say it's 0 to 6 against it as stated, but if it would change to add, to include the account number, our recommendation would be 6-0 probably in favor of it.
All right, then I will go back and revise my motion, if that would please people.
I mean,
You know me, Tom, I'm always happy.
Okay, I will recommend that the article be amended to include the account numbers with the accounts that are being referred to, and that the article be adopted as amended.
and only as amended.
Amended to,
Town meeting will decide what it wants to do. The point is that the issue is presented to the town meeting.
So,
amended to, I know it's, I don't know.
The other thing that was happening here historically,
Tell me how that works now,
okay,
so I can get it written down. Amended to,
amend the article
did you write it down?
to include the account numbers on the various accounts,
I get it now, Tom.
okay? Okay. The other issue that was happening here was a few years ago, we had the types of accounts being changed too, so that money was being spent out of accounts. Change the name to a statutory reserve account, you can take money out of it without having to ask a town meeting, which is what was happening.
I need to include account numbers.
Right.
Is there a second on that?
Second.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All opposed?
I abstain.
Well, the thing is with the abstaining, Tucker, I have to record a reason, when somebody abstains, under our rules.
All right, I'll vote no.
So it's 4-0.
Or two.
4-2. I don't know.
We just agreed.
He's a slow learner.
I knew it was 4-1 if it was 1, but I didn't know if it was 4-2 if it was, I don't know. Kim, go ahead.
I thought we went through this last year, Tom. I thought that Michelle,
Last year, I brought the issue up.
right, but I thought that it had something to do with the program that they had. Is this what, is it?
Yeah, it was the most,
About-
you are correct. And this is the most absurd thing, because when I brought it up, and you remember, we were all pushing because we were all having the coronavirus thing.
Right.
The selectman said, or the response from administration was, let me phrase it that way, that, oh, we couldn't possibly do that because we might change programs. And I just sort of sat here and scratched my head. And I said, well, maybe you're going to change accounting programs between the time that this is published and the time that the town meeting votes? I don't think so. But that was the excuse for not including it. And again, going back, the history here was that we had all these accounts that were appearing, and from year to year, they were changing the names of them, and there was no way to account for them, no consistency. So that goes back to 2016, I think, thereabouts. That year, we got them to put in account numbers, and next year, they got put in account numbers. Last year, no account numbers.
We got account numbers this year on our last one.
Some of the articles, we do have account numbers. These, there aren't any.
Well, I'm saying our last warrant, we did have account numbers, Tom.
Okay.
Not the municipal warrant, but the school.
Oh, yeah, right, school is good about that.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Virginia.
If there is a reason, a good reason to be changing the account title, following the new account title, why doesn't it say formerly XYZ Fund? So that people see the link.
You could, Virginia, however they want to do it.
So if you need to go back and do a little research, you can say, okay, you know, it's like looking at a mutual fund. It says it's the balance fund now, formerly the stock fund.
Exactly.
And then you know exactly where to find your information.
No. So we voted on that one, right?
Do we change account titles very often?
No.
Beg your pardon?
Do we,
Account numbers.
this town, do we change account titles very often?
The titles of accounts?
Yeah.
I have 7 years of history here of comparing, pulling out,
How about just in the last year or two?
yeah. What's that?
How about just in the last year or two?
I didn't look at the last year, okay?
No, but we don't normally change account numbers,
I
Tom.
was gonna say,
Oh, account numbers. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm
we don't
sorry.
know.
Did I say that? I meant account names.
Account number.
Sorry.
What's happening is the
Understand.
names of the accounts are changing, okay?
Yeah, so why would we have occasion to change an account name? Do you know?
Well, in
I'm just
one
curious.
case, I can think of very specifically, an account name was changed so that it could be identified as a statutory reserve account, which means that the selectmen could spend from it without the authorization of the town meeting. And I know of 2 cases where that happened, and I don't want to go into it because I don't want to do personalities, but it has happened, okay? And that's part of that game.
So I think more the reason for putting both names, the current name and the formerly name, right there in the account title line.
We have the account number, and we can trace it back to the previous year.
Okay.
Okay, Article, that was 4-2. Article 22, to see if the town will vote to accept any and all funds received from the state of Maine and federal government and appropriate any designated funds received to their designated use. Can I have a motion?
Adoption of the article as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Six to zero, I knew you were picking your hand up, Tom. I figured if you made the motion, you'd vote for it. To see if the town will vote to appropriate fiscal year 2021, 22 anticipated municipal revenues from the categories listed below into use of funds from the municipal undesignated fund balance to reduce the amount to be raised by taxation during the tax commitment. The revenue categories are excise tax, interest and penalties, plumbing and building permits, tree growth reimbursement, town animal fees, victualers licenses, vital records, agent fees, investment earnings, ambulance service fees, recycling returns, and miscellaneous non-restricted state revenue not previously appropriated in other articles. What's your pleasure?
Well, I'm sort of mystified. This is a new article, and typically what has happened is that revenues go into the undesignated fund balance at the end of the year when the books are closed, and that money becomes available to do exactly what they're describing here, I think.
We had this last year.
Did you?
I feel like we did, yeah.
Yeah, I think we did, Tom.
Okay, all right.
Now, can I have a motion?
I'll move that we adopt the article as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions, comments?
What was the motion again?
To accept the article as written.
Okay.
All in favor? Six to zero. Article 24, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $1,050,465 for general government for wages, operation costs, employee benefits for the following departments. Here's your account numbers there, Tom.
Yep.
Governing body selectmen, $30,271. Storage building electricity, $800. Office assistants, $80,000. Municipal management, $559, $753. Elections, $7,959. Register of voters, $4,570. Finance treasurer, $60,653. Town administrator, town clerk, tax collector, $91,788. Assessment, $45,400. And land use, $168,451. Could I have a motion, please? After we get a motion, Joe, as soon as we get a motion.
Make a motion, we accept Article 24 as written.
It's been moved and seconded. Go ahead, Joe.
Can you give me a clarification of what the municipal management of over $500,000?
I could say, but I don't want to do it off the top of my head. You want to do it off the top of your head, Tom?
Not me.
No, it's just, is he talking about the first page of the proposed budget, the handout we got tonight?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, that was one of the ones we had
Oh, it could
before.
be Virginia.
Yeah,
Well, there's only
This
3
one.
items there under
This one
the,
here.
Unemployment contribution, workers' comp, health insurance, social security tax, Medicare, MEPers, office supplies, postage, and meter rentals, cleaning supplies, heating fuel for town hall, employee training boards, dues and memberships, computer repair and maintenance, legal expenses, $10,000. Okay. Audit expenses, drug testing, CDL required, deed transfers, lien filings, discharge costs, alarm service, contract deputy, town hall electricity, town hall telephone, town hall building, maintenance, software rental, equipment maintenance and repairs, liability insurance, property casualty, printing, advertising, town reports, equipment, computer hardware, sand and salt shed loan is in there also, that's $56,800. Fire department tanker loan is in there.
don't we all have this handout?
Yeah, I don't,
Yeah, but Joe was asking,
I know, but I think he
you
got
see
it.
it. So basically, Joe, what it is, anything to run municipal government other than wages.
Pages 1 through 3.
Well, wages are in there too, aren't they?
No, not part of the 559.
No, not part of 559.
No, that's the municipal management, that covers everything else.
Storage building that they're referring to on it.
The sand, salt,
So the land use is the, salaries of the
code enforcement.
code enforcement.
yeah, that was,
Include the health insurance?
yeah, that,
That's health insurance?
no, that's salaries, but that's based off last year's numbers, right, Kim?
Yes.
So like the town administrator, the $91,000, is that the,
That's what her pay is,
that's what her pay is, plus health insurance, plus?
yes.
Well, that 91,000 is like 3 different titles, right? It's not just one job.
It's not just,
Yeah, that's tax collector, a town clerk, and town administrator. Is that true with the registered voters and the registered voters?
Registered voters is separate, Joe, that's stayed basically, I believe, the same for quite a few years.
And the assessment goes to the assessors that are hired,
O'Donnell's,
O'Donnell's, okay.
yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I don't know if I passed out this. I just want to make a comment about, you know, this, when you do these budgets, and if you don't do a line item budget, you end up lumping a whole bunch of things in there without doing the data research on it. And I did, just for the election cost, I did a spreadsheet on election cost, and last year, I didn't realize, but it went up by $1,076, and over the last 11 years, we averaged $4,713, the cost over 11 years for the cost of the elections. And then they're just upping it again. They're just upping the cost of it. We never even come close to but when you go a 3% budget cut, things get moved in there, and we're over budgeting in a lot of things, and they should be really looked at. I don't know if did you get one of these, Tucker, down here?
No, I did not.
Will you pass one of these down here? Okay. But it takes a lot of work to look at all these things and go over them, over all past years to see, how much is in there. And with that, I hear we got extra money this year that they're talking about taking down, so we're paying taxes on, we're overpaying our taxes.
Yeah, carrying much too much money stashed.
Yeah, I mean, all these things gotta be really looked at. I mean, it's just, I mean, you had, they just found money a year ago to, what was it they put in? Oh, the security cameras. They found money to do that in
Without
excess,
approval of the town meeting.
excess in some fund.
Right.
I mean,
That's what's happening.
that's what's, you know, they're spending, we're just overspending, I mean, over budgeting. I mean, it would never, no, I guess when you're spending other people's money, it's easy, but in corporations, this would never fly.
I think we're gonna lower the election worker's salary when the rate of pay keeps going up in the state of Maine.
Well, it's got nothing to do with the amount, the amount that you paid the election office, the election people last year, and the year before that, you had, after you paid them their salary, you had money left over. Do you have, is all them sheets passed out? Well, I can give you my sheet. I'll give you a spreadsheet on this. I've done all the,
You can have mine, keep yours.
Right here, no, she can have this.
I mean, this is just an example, Kim.
And I mean, we don't know if we're gonna have good special elections either. There's gonna be money in there to go.
Well, I understand, but you go by data, you've had 11 years, over the 11 years, you could have had special elections in there. If you notice, the last one I had there is 18-19, it was $5,700 for that year. For some reason, I don't know, I'd have to go back and look at the records. But all the other ones, you'll see there's $4,091, $440, I mean, there's all different prices. So it's not based on salary for the thing. To go up, to not expend an average of $1,900 a year, and then up the amount this year, I forget what it is now, it's gone up to, for 11 years ago, it was $6,888, and now it's gone up to $7,959. So for 10 years ago, they budgeted $6,883. That's carried all the way along to all of a sudden, even though we've never spent that amount of money, we're gonna up it by $1,000. Why?
It has to do with the fact that this year we have to give a dollar raise, next year we have to get them up to $15 an hour, because that is what it's gonna be.
And how much is that?
$15 an hour.
I know, but how much,
Where were we at, like 10? So it'll be a $5 an hour raise for each one of those persons.
and how many hours do they work?
I have no idea, it'll depend on how long the elections are.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of up and down on election night.
Get later on.
I understand, okay.
You can figure this.
Well, I think I would defer it to Virginia. She's probably, the most well-versed on, the elections, where she's been part of it for many years.
Well, I don't recall exactly what year we got the ballot counting machine, but the first few years, there were a lot of hiccups with that machine that cost us a lot of time. We had an election last year, and there was one night where it seemed to be that it was gonna be, not a long night, and all of a sudden, it's 12:30 at night, and we're still trying to prove out the ballots. And that particular time, there were reasons why that happened. Some of it was due to a lot of new personnel that were on the crew. But things pop up, and if the ballot counting machine isn't being user-friendly, then, you never know how many interruptions that's gonna cost you, how much time you have to spend on that. It's,
But if you,
I wouldn't wanna budget for that particular piece of the
Well,
Right.
what I'm getting at is the data shows that even with those hiccups, of all, over the past 10 years, of all the hiccups, you never overspent the money that was allotted, not even come close. One year you came close. 2013, you spent $6,085. That's roughly $700 under the budget. The closest year after that was, 5,783. So all those
Yeah, I hear you.
trouble that you ran into had been covered by that amount that was appropriated. And what I'm just saying is that the budget covered the expenditures, an average for the 10 years. So that gives you historical data on what you spend. And from that, you can extrapolate that, why did you go up? I mean, you've never even come close to, the average of 11 years was $4,700. I don't want to beat this to death, but it's just an example of how these budgets get ballooned up. And you end up with, because they're not specific enough, and that's why I would like to see a line item budget. So it says you gotta spend this, and if you don't spend it, it goes into the designated fund. It doesn't get morphed into, oh, that we can go over here and spend it on a party or something, I don't know. But it's.
I agree.
Tom?
Okay, I'd like to expand on this, on the thinking here. You have to look at this holistically, and what I'm suggesting is, this is one article, and it covers all of these accounts, okay? So some of them, you're gonna overspend, others you're not gonna overspend. When we're budgeting, we should be budgeting on past history, and if we do that on all of these, we can bring down the total number. And what's happening is that each of these are being budgeted on the maximum that's spent for this category, this category, this category, and that category. Okay? So you end up with a large amount of money at the end of the year that is unspent, because all those categories don't get spent to the maximum. Most of them don't, in fact. Some of those numbers you can pin right down.
So if we could look back even 2 or 3 years on these particular examples, then next time around, when we get the figures in front of us, why don't we just say, cut 5% off that total, whatever the hell it is, cut 5% off.
When you look at the number that goes into this article, what you should be looking at is all of these things put together, okay? And then what's the history of the expense for category 102-15 in total. Not each one of them at a maximum, but what has been the history
Okay, I guess I'm wondering what,
of the
how much,
expense, not
yeah,
of the appropriation.
how big is an accounting staff do you need to get to this level of detail? I don't disagree with you that that's, probably the way they do it in corporate America, but in the little town of Acton, we have trouble staffing, just for a night for an election, never mind a lot of other things that, if we had the people that knew how to do the job, whether it's going through reports and getting, really diving into the detail of any of these numbers that you pick.
I
don't
guess
think
what
What we don't get is, and this has been a problem, we don't get the numbers of what the expenses are at the end of the year. But it's, all this information is available. All you have to do is request it.
I guess what you're
It seems like it's been
asking,
done to
Virginia,
take it.
is basically what the school does, is what Arnie's asking for. Basically like the school does
Yeah.
to their side.
We don't have that financial person, that Tim.
What's that?
We don't have Tim.
No, that's
Financial
true.
wizard.
But I'm saying I think that's what they're talking about.
In the ideal world, yeah.
Well, these numbers can be run, just quickly, this expense sheet that we get here is there's roughly 400 line items on this. And I was able to get this thing as a comma-separated value, and it took me a while to remember, because I've been retired for 18 years, how to manipulate it, but I was able to look at that somewhat in a fashion, and there's roughly 400 line items here, and you gotta go up to line item 100 and somewhere around, let's say 125, from 0 to 125, that, items on this are under 80% spent. So that's, if you get 400 items and you say there's 100 line items that are spent, never went over 80%, you got like quarter of your accounts that are not being spent. They're, I don't know how you'd say it, 25%, 25% under, not spent, left over of their budget.
Okay, I mean, I get the point.
Yeah,
I
it's
guess we'd
just,
have to have a conversation, maybe with the treasurer or the town administrator or both as to,
I don't know either. I just,
how do we get
I
to where you're saying we should be? And
I can't remember how to do pivot tables, and so I just can't extrapolate.
I never heard the term pivot table, no.
Well, the pivot table is a way to sort spreadsheets,
Okay,
and it's a way you can sort all the information and dissect it and cut it different ways and everything else.
Okay,
Because I think the purpose amount, the town.
Thank you, sir.
Has like, 3 months. Money available for emergencies or whatever.
Of your operating costs.
3 months. Somehow, maybe the town has more. I think that's what they're doing now with the paying off the sand shed.
School, actually,
So, I mean, it's like you bring up a good point. You know, you go to appropriate money, and you're actually appropriating more money than whatever that is the tax on earth. As it comes out, we didn't spend, so nowhere to go. You know, sort of like, do we need more of a monetary oversight on this, the whole budget for the tax? Another town isn't being run like a lot of people run their own personal thing, mainly because it's not their money. It's just, you know, it's okay, we'll appropriate this, and maybe we use it, maybe we won't, you know.
okay, guys, we gotta get back, Joe. Move on.
Okay, that's all right.
No, it's all right. I have a few explanations and a few questions. The office assistants, I believe both of them are full-time now, aren't they, Kim?
Yes.
So that's where that dollar amount came from. The salt shed payment, if in fact, later down here, we pay that off, then that dollar amount would be deducted from that 1 million, and you would still be the same amount of money. You know what I mean? You deduct that payment for the salt shed that's budgeted in this if we pay the whole thing off. And the other part about this is, in the land use, the way this was set up before, we had a full-time code enforcement, we had a full-time deputy, and a full-time secretary.
We're not gonna have,
And it's my understanding that we're not gonna replace the deputy.
not right on, no.
So that number is based on what we had before and not what we're currently doing. And I have to say, I do not even remember what the motion was.
Wasn't it written down?
Yeah, approve it is written. There we go. Moving on,
I would just like to make one other observation before we move on from here, if I may, okay? I don't know how many of you have gone over your brief books we get here, our Town of Acton budget, okay? We get 1 year of current expenses up to the middle of the year.
right,
How do you build a budget when you don't have historical numbers or how much has been spent year after year after year after year? I have gone and requested that information last year and again this year, and I can't get it. It's like pulling hen's teeth. You can't make any sense out of a budget, the construction of a budget, unless you know what past history is.
Do you have, Excel?
I have last year's budget.
Well, we have,
I'm not talking about budget, I'm talking about what the expenditures were, okay? Expense summary report for every single year, okay? At least 3 years running back, we should have when we're putting together a budget. Then we can see what it actually costs to do this stuff.
Tom? Yeah, excuse me. Mr. Chairman, can I speak?
yes,
I'd like to, Mr. Gore, that if you have Excel, Word, and if you have Excel, I requested the expense reports for 18, 19, 19, 18, and 17. If you go up on the webpage, and it should be up there, because they put them up there. And if you download them, they're a comma separated value, and download them into your Excel, it'll put them in a spreadsheet, just like this. It'll, well, I don't have one here, but it'll be in a spreadsheet like you get in a spreadsheet. It'll say account number, spent, all that stuff. It'll take that, it takes that report, this report, and puts it all in columns with the things, and you can...
And when did you get that?
yeah, Michelle sent that out. It was after our last meeting, Arnie?
I thought that went to everybody. Did you
did.
get it?
Yeah, I think it was, what, 3-4 weeks ago?
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's some time ago. That's what I've been trying to...
Last year, I requested the fire department for 3 years running. I requested it in February. I got it, the full one, the day after we voted.
Right.
Okay? This year, I requested it again, and I did what the committee suggested that we do. We go to the various departments, okay? And one of mine was the transfer station, so I went up to see our manager at the transfer station and asked him if he would get me those expense reports. He came down to the office, requested them for me, and was told I can't give them to you. Okay?
Well, they're on
That's my experience with this, so
they're on the expense...
really frustrating.
But they are on that thing that Michelle sent out.
Okay, well, I don't know, I haven't seen them.
So with that being said, I guess we'll see what ends up, and town meeting can decide, because we have to vote on what's in front of us, so. All in favor? And that's 6-0. I mean, don't you agree, Kim, that's something we'll know by town meeting, and town meeting can adjust the numbers anyway? Article 25, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $25,000 for the earned paid leave fund pursuant to 26 MRS 637, effective date 1/1/2021 for all non-exempt employees, and to carry any unexpended funds into the next fiscal year. This is something that Michelle came out and said that the state said we needed to start doing. Creating that account. It's basically the same thing the school's been doing for years. Can I have a motion, please?
I would propose that we amend this motion to delete the "and to carry any unexpended funds into the next fiscal year," and adopt the motion as amended. Those funds that are unspent should go back into the undesignated fund balance.
Then how about...
I don't think,
If you just change it, unexpended funds into, instead of cross out fiscal year and put in the undesignated fund.
I don't know what the personnel policy is on that. They might be able to carry these forward from year to year, for a certain amount of time. I know at the school, you can keep them and accumulate so much, then there's a cutoff, and with a policy the selectmen have, I'm wondering if this money needs to stay there.
Okay, let's back up just a minute, because I would say that the selectmen may have a policy, but that's not a municipal policy. It's not a municipal policy until the town meeting approves it as a policy. So regardless of any policy that the selectmen may have with respect to this, and unless it is encoded in statute, we have no obligation to carry it.
With a pay agreement, Tom.
Beg your pardon?
With the pay agreement between the Board of Selectmen and the employees.
The selectmen don't have the authority to create that, independent of the town meeting.
Excuse me, remind me, who's telling the treasurer that we need to
This
have
in
this
here,
fund?
I believe the state said we needed to set this up.
So maybe the state says
State law.
what happens to unexpended funds too?
There's a statute right here that's quoted, 26
Yeah.
MRS. We just have to look at the statute and see what it is.
Yeah, we
I
just
don't know.
have it in front of us at the moment.
It's new. I don't know what
Yeah,
it is
something they
either.
just did.
Yeah.
I remember,
It says you gotta create the earned paid leave fund pursuant to 26 MRS 637, so that has to be looked up before before I can comment on it. I don't know what that says,
I don't either.
whether it talks about the funds, where it goes, whether it's carried over, has to be carried over to this, I don't know.
Well, let's just not vote on this article tonight. Until we know the answer to that question.
yeah,
Okay?
So,
Or we can pass it as amended, and then if we need to correct it on the floor of the town meeting, we can do that also. So either way, you want to do it.
Maybe a quick email to the treasurer would give us the answer.
well,
I think I'd prefer to look it up in the law, to tell you the truth.
either way.
I don't think that the law is going to say that you have to carry it, because the legislature is very, very judicious about observing the unwritten rules of the town meeting form of government. And one town meeting can't tell another town meeting what to do.
can we table this? Let's move on until we can read this out. I don't wanna
I'm fine with that. Is everybody,
motion to table.
Yeah.
motion to table?
I'll withdraw my motion then.
All in favor of the table?
Do you want the definition?
Yeah, we'll get it, we'll get it straightened out. Article 26, to see if the town will vote to establish a revaluation fund for the townwide property assessment revaluation, and to appropriate from the undesignated fund balance the sum of $130,000 for the same, and to carry the balance into the next fiscal year. Total amount needed in the reserve over the next 2 years is $195,000. The last reval was completed in 2010, requiring $65,000 additional to be appropriated in fiscal year's warrant for final payment.
I'll make a motion that we recommend adopting the article as written with, okay, without a caveat. At the last meeting you were here, I asked for the audit of the
State.
assessments, state auditors' assessments. I was given this, which is not what I was looking for. Annually, and you'll probably have been involved in these, the Department of Internal Revenue sends somebody down to audit our assessments, right? And he gives us a report that tells us how close we are, how close our assessments are to what they should be. And that's the number that's going to determine whether we should actually be doing this or not. And my recollection is that we have to be within 20%, although that may have changed.
Tom, that's my fault. You did ask for that,
I was gonna say, I feel like we should.
and the information, that we got, you and I got, I believe Jen asked me, is that what you want? And I said, yes. And, And I said, thank you very much.
Okay.
So that's,
We've had a misunderstanding.
that's on me.
Okay, so you're looking at the state auditor or something?
Right, the internal revenue auditor of the assessed valuation of the town. Okay?
So, it's been moved and seconded. Any questions?
Yeah, I got a question now. With that pending there, if we don't have to do this for another 5 years, this money's just gonna sit in there?
No, it will lapse into the undesignated fund balance at the end of the year.
Okay.
After the $65,000, does that mean that the money to do the reassessment and revaluation is already there?
It should be in, yeah, 195,000 total.
It's waiting.
Yeah.
So if it goes up to inflation or whatever, say 3%, we'll have to appropriate more money, is that correct?
Next year.
Yeah.
I think they probably signed a contract, right?
We signed a contract and,
Not for the reval. This is all to do just strictly with the reval, Kim.
What is the possibility that we're gonna have a reval within 5 years?
it's definitely possible, we'd like to get it done in the next year.
Okay, so this doesn't, the state comes in and says, okay, reval time.
Basically, the state comes down and they go through a sampling of your valuations compared with sales. And if you're off by more than, I think the number is 20%, then they tell you the law requires you to revalue. And Internal Revenue does this. He takes 2 days to go through the books here. And you get a report saying how close you are to what are actual
So
sales.
imagine with this surge in the last year, it's quite possible that we come down and say this.
Well, they're going to be looking at older records. They're not going to be looking at records that are generated this year because they're not on the books yet. But they'll be looking at last year's and the year before, probably to generate that
But
sample.
they're gonna say we're undervalued. I mean, they are gonna say that.
It probably is the case. I'd just like to see the
What
numbers.
they've been, Tom, the last 2-3 years have been crazy.
Yeah.
Does the state mandate that you put this money aside, or is this something that?
No,
Is this like a fire truck kind of deal, where, firefighter truck, they put money aside?
no. The state does not mandate it. We hire assessors. Kim is an assessor.
No, I realize that, but what I'm saying is, are we taxing ourselves for stuff that will be coming in the future, but it hasn't yet arrived, but this money's anticipating that
Well-
we'll need it in whatever number of years?
Presumably, or I assume that this reassessment would begin as soon as this was approved, in July.
No, I don't believe they're doing it that way, Tom.
You know?
No.
It's over the next 2 years,
Yeah, it says in there.
not just this price.
So they wouldn't start.
Well, it would start after we approve it, I assume. But I don't know.
That's up to the selectmen, I guess.
Well, it says in the bottom, over the next 2 years.
Explains it that.
Yeah, so it's not imminent.
This is not enough, the first article, yeah.
I believe this money, Kim, this 130 is part of what you guys are talking about out of that 500,000. Is that right?
I believe so.
It might not be, I'm not really too sure.
I had assumed that probably they were going to start it and get pretty much through it, but not be quite finished.
$195,000.
Total, right, right.
We're asking for 130, and then next year, the remainder.
Right.
So that we can get it done. Last time we did it was 2010, so I
Right.
don't know what the history is of how often we do it.
It's when, we've done it in the past, the reason why we did it back then was because the state said we needed to do it.
Right, based on that document that I requested. Okay, but it looks to me, my assessment of this was that in the new fiscal year, the process was going to begin, but it was going to extend into the next fiscal year after the upcoming.
It takes a couple of years anyway to do it.
Usually, yeah.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes, I'll do it.
Well, this is the reval fund.
Yeah. 5-1. Chairman votes in the negative.
know what I'm talking about though, Kim, what I want, right? Yeah, okay.
Article 27, to see if the town will appropriate from the undesignated fund balance, fund $50,000 for the exterior repair of the Acton Town Hall, including but not limited to siding on the back of the building. Can I have a motion, please? Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Well, I'm against it. I'm gonna vote no. I don't see putting money away, because just 50,000 for what?
We need to finish the siding in the back of this building.
Well,
Any bids?
where's the bid and the documentation that it's gonna be $50,000? I don't know. It could be $20,000 to side it and $30,000 for repairs. I don't know.
Jennifer was working on bids for you. I don't know if we'll have
Well, I can't vote on a unknown. I just,
The last bid we got was a few years ago, and I know it was over 30,000.
We're just pulling numbers
It was
out.
on the other side that need to be replaced,
Well,
so,
we did get a bid for the windows,
right.
and the bid was just one, just so we have, not a bid, it was an estimate, which was 32,000. And the rest of the money is supposed to finish, hopefully, the siding on the back side of the building. Don?
This is a number, and I was looking at the email exchange today. We don't have numbers. I'm with Arnie on this. Jennifer was saying, I think I'll have a number by tonight. Well, where is it? And this is one bid? We're talking one bid as opposed to three? I am in favor of finishing this building, for those of you who don't know, from about that line right there and that line right there. This part of this building is new, and it should get the sheathing on it to protect it. The whole front of the building is old, and I have real reservation about spending money on that, because it does need to be replaced. But I want to see a description of the job that's going to be done, how much it costs, and I want to see more than one, not just one cost.
I don't know how, I guess this is my opinion. Okay, we just found out, what, two and a half weeks ago, that, okay, there's extra money, like the school had in excess. So then we have to say, okay, we've got to spend this, what needs to be fixed? So now we're, this is something we knew we needed to fix. So now, we've only got a week or two to try to get this stuff for you guys. Something has to, I guess, change.
Right.
Well, because it,
Definitely.
because it doesn't give us enough time to get, because you should have your 3 quotes, or whatever you want. I mean, before you make a decision, I agree with that. But I feel like we've been rushed trying to get stuff together for you, so.
I don't know.
I guess, hold on a minute, Don. I guess, because I'm the one that's brought this issue up, throughout the emails and stuff, it isn't, I don't expect to have bids on this, okay, at this point. I think there should be, but that's my personal opinion. My problem is, there's been no specs to come up with a dollar amount that we're talking about.
Right.
And anybody that does any business knows that if you're gonna do a job, or you want somebody to do a job, you have a list of things that you wanna accomplish within that job, and then the contractor, whatever you're doing, will give you a price for what you want done. But just to say,
I mean, we got one last year, that's what that,
yeah, it's 2 years ago now, Kim.
right, it's been 2 years.
Yeah.
Everything has just gone up.
And-
What's gonna be more?
So we don't know. One thing that bothers me about the windows, 10 years ago, we spent $25,000 on these windows. And that was in 2011.
Right.
25,000. And now you're looking at another 32,000. That's a lot of money. in 10 years. I don't know, I understand, some people feel that you shouldn't put stuff out to bid until, you know you got the money, and some people,
At least, I mean, okay, if we put it up to bid, you've got some kind of, okay, this is kind of where we're at. I mean, yes, we've got a few months more to go, and it's probably gonna go up. At this point, everything is going up.
but this is all based on opinion.
Right.
Yeah,
And I guess, and I'm not doubting anybody's opinion, but when you gotta explain, as far as I'm concerned, from the Warrant and Finance Committee, you gotta explain to town meeting why you said yes and why you said no. And it's kinda like Arnie's talking about and Tom's talking about, you should be able to back it all up with data.
You gotta have a description of what you're gonna do.
Right.
Can you,
Specification.
this one,
Yeah.
see if anything comes in at the next meeting, or do we not have enough time?
I don't think we're gonna get anything, myself, from the emails that I've had going back and forth. It seemed to me that, in general, you're one of the selectmen, but in general, they didn't wanna expect any bids for anything until after town meeting.
Mr. Chairman?
That was my interpretation, Tim.
I wasn't at the last meeting.
This money that you're talking about, are we required to spend it by June? We have to spend it by the June town meeting?
No, we have to spend it, we can't start spending it until after the June town meeting on
After the
July
June town
1st.
meeting.
Well, yeah, I understand that. What I'm getting at is, do you have to make the decision now? If you don't make it at this town meeting, couldn't you have a special town meeting?
Correct.
In August, a month later?
Yeah, they could do whatever they want.
July, and settle all these things once you know. I mean, I don't know, found money to me is, you know, you spend it on something you really need that you could use. I mean, personally, what I would like to see is they take this money that they're putting in for the parking lot and all these other things and make special line items for paving the roads, fixing road dam, something that's tangible that we can see, not that you...
Money in this, just put aside.
I want to make a comment.
Go ahead, David.
I guess evidently, money is more important to some people than the building. Maybe the building can wait some more. Don't do the siding, don't do the window.
Yeah, but
Put the money in the parking lot,
Does it make
put it on the road.
to put a new heat thing in there and all the heat,
Well,
out
that's
the old
exactly-
windows,
right.
that don't work. Why don't we just prioritize what we need? We need a building that's functional, it's airtight.
This was talked about before.
I know.
All of a sudden this is on there, and now,
Nothing gets done, all right?
huh?
Nothing gets done.
No, it isn't getting done because we don't wanna put it in
All
there.
right, guys. Yeah, go ahead, David.
Right.
Anything else, David?
I mean, that's why we chose to say, let's, because we're putting heating systems in, let's try to get some money to get this siding finished, and that's why we asked for the windows too, because we knew we were getting a new heating system in. So we want to contain, we don't want to waste the heat. So,
Well,
I don't know what to, you know, as far as, you know, I know we put it out there, obviously nothing's coming yet for bid, so,
So once again, we can settle this at town meeting.
Yeah.
Can I make a comment?
Go ahead, Tom, then we're gonna move on.
Just a
Yeah,
broad,
we gotta
general
move on. I
comment
gotta-
to consider. I mean, if you were going to have somebody come in and renovate your kitchen, and somebody came to your back door and said, give me $30,000 and I'll renovate your kitchen, with no description of what's gonna be done, would you sign that? That's the spot we're in right here, recommending this to the town meeting. Right, okay. It's as simple as that. That's,
both sides are kind of in a tight spot, you know, because this wasn't something we thought we would have money to do this year, any of this. So that's kind of,
No, it was the state, the insurance guy came down and told you to fix it back there.
exactly,
Could have been done, all right?
yep. But I meant the heating systems and.
David.
Yeah, all
So
the-
he needs to,
David, you leaving?
all the time, it's always been that way.
He meant it when he said he's done.
Oh, okay. Mr. Winchell has left. So we have a motion on this one? We do.
Can you tell me what the motion was?
Take no action,
Take no action.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll second that if it hasn't been
and
seconded.
the same on Article 29.
29?
When we get there, you mean?
But let's go one at a time.
Yeah, we gotta move along now.
No action on 27
This is dragging out.
at this point?
Yep, no detail, no action.
No action or just refuse? No.
I would just, well,
Make a recommendation and no expenditure.
yeah, no detail, no action.
Okay,
Not approving, not disapproving.
Okay, so
Doing, not considering it without the detail.
vote no.
Vote no.
Oh, however you want to put it.
Vote no.
That's all excuse me a minute, guys. The recommendation on this is, not to approve the article.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Tucker?
No.
So that's 4 no, right? And 1 yes. You're saying no to the motion, and you're 100% right.
Yeah. Just make it turn.
Article 28, see if the town will vote to appropriate from the undated fund balance $25,000 for purchase and installation of a new HVAC system in the Acton Town Hall and Townhouse Meeting Room. What this is really 2 installations. The one that you guys might have seen was the original one that Luke sent in, was for the replacement of this one here. And if you remember, at the last meeting, we talked a little bit about HVAC and the selectmen, I believe, Kim, you can help me out here, said that we're not putting in ventilation, we're just putting in heating and air conditioning, and there will be they weren't gonna put any stuff in from the outdoor for the air exchange.
I thought we had said that we would look into it.
And I haven't heard anything since. Luke did send out the specs for that one there. And for the unit hanging on the exterior wall, Mitsubishi. And I think that was it. It was like $9,700 or something.
yeah, but that had a heat exchange, I mean.
I'd like to add a
Air
comment.
exchange on it.
Because it's a public facility, there are requirements, code requirements regarding air exchange in buildings. They're rapidly changing, but these are a result of tightening buildings up during the oil crisis in the 70s. And we are obligated presumably to abide by those if we upgrade, and it's not something that Luke would probably be real familiar with.
I agree with what Tom's saying. I mean, that is, if you're upgrading, you have to bring stuff up to code.
That's correct. That's correct. Or we could end up like another ambulance building over here that doesn't have an occupancy permit and can't get one.
Right. No, I mean, I just want to make sure things are done right.
But
This is what we gotta do, this is what we gotta do.
I didn't bring that
Again, we
quote,
need
but
a
I thought that
proposal to
quote
look at.
said air exchanger in it. The first part of that quote was
It did say,
something about air exchanger, because I remember seeing it. But I don't know, I can't remember the exact wording, so I can't quote it, so I don't know.
well, I would like to, this is getting complicated.
No, just vote no, because we don't have a proposal.
Do you guys wanna wait for more information, or what do you wanna do? looks like we're definitely gonna have another meeting.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, we're gonna have to have another meeting, and
What time is it now, Kim? Can you see the clock?
it's almost 8.
8 o'clock.
Yeah, we've been here quite a while.
I have to get home.
Is there anything else in the next few articles anyway that you guys would like to have, get some information?
Are we gonna have a proposal on Article 28, or should we just?
I think we're just gonna decide now, Tom, that we're gonna,
Vote no?
no, I think we're going to,
Table it?
just wait and see if we can get some more information.
Okay, all right.
I mean, we've been here a couple hours. Some of it's probably, I don't know. Yeah. I'll talk to Kim and I'll talk to Jen. And please email me any questions, that you might have, and I'll still try to get some answers. It just doesn't make any sense to me to do something without knowing what you're getting, that's all.
And while we're on that topic, I would just wanna flash this light in front of everybody. We have the same problem with this bridge. Okay, only the problem is bigger with the bridge because we don't know who's responsible for what on it. We're being told that this guy is gonna, Mr. Beals is gonna supervise it, but he's not responsible for it, and, you know, that's another scenario, there's no plan. We have a dollar figure. And I got sent a contract, presumably, it got labeled a contract, but it's not a contract, it's a proposal.
We can't sign a contract until we pay him.
That's true, but you can have a contract drafted, and we can look at
We
that.
didn't get everything we got.
What's
Are
that?
you missing?
Yeah,
I mean, we
yeah.
know what the prices are and stuff.
Well, the prices are a small part of it. Who's responsible for the end product here?
Say that again?
Who's responsible for the end product? Who's
It's all
responsible
done
for
and
the
over with,
behavior
Tom.
of it?
I mean, I'm sorry, Kim.
Say that, yeah.
He wants to know who's responsible when it's
Who's
finished product.
gonna guarantee when those footings go in that the soil is adequate to support them without caving in the sidewalls of the tunnel?
That's his responsibility.
Where does it say that? If we're gonna look at a price here,
Is all, you know, whatever he does for work is supposed to be guaranteed.
you know how long the statute of limitations is on that job? 5 years at best. And if you do not do due diligence, the judge is going to tell you, go pound sand if you go back in 3.
I feel like we should have something else in there that.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Who's going to do the fill?
That's all him until when you get off the bridge, then it'll be the road commissioner on our side, on that side.
So wouldn't this be in the contract? It would be written out exactly
Yes,
what these
yes,
steps
it
are?
should say who does what and is responsible for what.
But if you put like, our, road commissioners, what he's doing and stuff, I mean, he's looking into it. Do you want all that too? Is that what you're saying?
That's part of the project, isn't it? Is that included in the cost or not?
Yes.
What's included in this cost? Because I'll tell you what we have here that's being labeled.
That comes out of
I thought, Kim,
his road budget. It doesn't,
I thought that, the clarification after all this, who was gonna do whatever, that this guy gave us a new price with a finished product.
last time.
Him doing the whole thing.
The footings, that's on the other bridge, that's on Road Bridge.
Oh, no, I'm talking about canal.
Canal, he's just the bridge, putting the footings in, he's doing that, he's not doing the approaches on the side. That's up to each town to do that.
This is what I have, Kim, this is what got sent to me, okay? Under cover of a letter from Wakefield, okay? And it starts out, install non-shrinking grout in all lift ports and hardware areas. Well, that's fine. Who supplies the grout? It doesn't say that. This should be written out and said, provide and install, okay, bum, bum, bum. Again, provide and install, this just says install, blah, 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 blah. And it goes on and on and on. But it doesn't say who's responsible for doing what. And ultimately, you have to hold somebody accountable. Because if things go fine, that's great, but if they go downhill, it's a mess.
Were you here for the meeting when he came to ask questions? You weren't here, were you?
No, I told Jen I wanted a contract. I want to see who's responsible for what, so I know what questions to ask. Without knowing who's supposed to do what, and I've got several emails from Jen, and the story keeps changing. Prices keep changing, responsibility for this, that, and the other thing keeps changing.
I know the prices keep changing.
Yeah, and it's so, there should be a description of the project, what it's gonna look like, okay, when it's done, and who is going to do what.
I'm pretty sure we have one.
Okay, when,
Is the guy bondable?
Yes, we talked about that. Model for.
Okay. Well, that's interesting to know anyway.
so our next meeting will be next Monday, if everybody's fine with that.
Isn't there something going on next Monday, a public hearing or something? I seem to remember next
I know
Monday.
we had one last Monday.
What is it, the last
public
Monday
hearing.
of the month? I don't have my calendar with me.
She's looking it up. I just seem to think that,
Or is
for
next
some
Monday the
reason,
day
I thought...
before election?
For some reason, I thought our next meeting was on the 29th. Is it 29th next Monday?
I think the next Monday is, no.
Oh, maybe like the 27th, the 26th.
26th or something?
And I think the 27th is the election.
Zoning Board of Appeals.
Oh, that's at
School vote
5
is-
o'clock.
Monday, April 26th, we've got the liquor license request.
Yeah.
And then Tuesday is
The school
election.
vote is Tuesday, whatever date that is.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
So
There's a,
we're gonna have to change to a different night then. Or we can go,
no, let's change, let's do it, let's get it done and over with. I mean, there's too
but
many.
what I'm saying is if we're not gonna be able to have the town hall next Monday,
No,
is what I mean.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to do it a different
different night.
Can you just get the
night.
little room downstairs?
I,
Can I ask?
Oh, just find out another night next week.
I mean, there aren't that many of us there,
no,
if this is representative of what we can expect.
right,
Be able to, because I have,
Jim wouldn't be able to, right.
just so you know, but
Oh, or maybe the social distancing would be an issue, like down there.
Right,
Jennifer would know, I guess.
because one of the planning board meetings, there was a couple down there and I couldn't go down, so,
oh, wait a minute, Monday, April 26th.
Oh, you don't do your planning board meetings down there?
no up here,
Oh, okay, so it's not big enough.
right.
Okay.
So we probably shouldn't do it during town meeting. Jen wouldn't like that,
These are both Zoom.
which I don't blame her.
Actually, Dennis, these both look like they're Zoom meetings.
But Jen would have her hall set up the night before
Or,
for,
Election.
town meeting.
We could meet
School town
down,
meeting.
we could meet
Now, the election's
downstairs.
gonna be at the, school.
Yeah, we could
let's
meet.
ask, I
I
mean,
think the election's at the school.
We have met downstairs before.
I mean, there's only,
I'm fine
It's
with
gonna
it.
be here.
we'll just ask and see if it's, you know,
I'm fine with it, you guys are fine with
Next
it.
Monday.
I better find out, I have to go.
Downstairs.
Yeah, it's fine with me.
downstairs.
So, let me see what happens. What was the date next Monday?
26th.
26th?
And
Yeah,
Oh, I don't have anything on.
Kim, I would like to meet with you, and we'll set up a meeting to try to make sure that we can get,
try to get what you need, yeah.
yeah. And I would ask that at our next meeting, it's just, I can't tell obviously how people how to do the business, but, either yes or no. If we don't have the information, you make up your mind how you want to do it. If you have the information, you can still make up your mind how you want to do it. But, and I'm not trying to hurry anything, but,
No, that's fine, although there is plenty of time.
no, I agree, and that's what Jen said. We talked about it. I forget what it, even the conversation, but, she asked me, I think I thought we could get done by the end of April, 1st of May, and I said, yeah, I don't see why not.
Kim, this says that to submit to the town of Wakefield stamped engineering drawings. Engineering drawings of what? Is the whole project, or is it, you know, is it the whole project, or is it just the concrete beams and slab?
Yeah,
Are we,
That's,
can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
The only thing that's there is,
I just like to see.
Don't put your finger there, Joe. You know how I am.
I know how you are.
My glasses are